I'm Amber Holt. I'm the owner of Backcountry Basics, and I've been riding for almost a little over 10 years, and I've been instructing for a little over 20. When snowmobiling first clicked for me and I really started to run with it was when I purchased my first M7, an Arctic Cat, 2006. And it really opened up for me because boondocking and technical riding became fun because I was on the right equipment for the task. The assumption that snowmobiling is a male-dominated sport is probably because of the numbers. There are more men that ride than women, but it's just as much a women's enthusiast sport. I think the biggest factor, and you could go all day discussing this, but it comes from genetics onto how fat your wallet is, to why there aren't more women in the sport. One of the factors with the assumption of more men taking to snowmobiling in the past is a lot of it had to do with you needed strength in the past, and it seemed to be an extreme, more macho sport in the mountain segment, and really it's not. It's about being out there and having fun. Women approach thrill, scare, adventure differently than men. It doesn't mean that we don't enjoy a thrill or the extreme side. We just approach it differently because our fight or flight systems are different than a man's. One of the things that often happens that gets women into riding is they follow guys, and their first experience is this: I've got to keep up, I've got to go where they go, I don't really know what I'm doing. And there's a lot of fear factor that's instilled right from the go, and women do not excel against fear. They excel with knowledge. So by putting a woman into the sport right off the bat, hurry up, keep up, only probably 1 in 10 women are comfortable with that application in that atmosphere. Up until recently, the clothing available for women were not comfortable for backcountry riding. They either bundled us up like we were little snowballs, or there really wasn't a fit. And having comfortable gear out there for women is huge for backcountry riding. It's just as important as a man needs it. The thing with women is our temperatures go from extreme hot when we're active to extreme cold when we're not active. So finding the proper gear that will fit a woman in that aspect is very important. The biggest thing since I've been teaching is getting more women into the sport and encouraging other women to get into the sport. One of the things I see amongst our peers as women that really help get them into the sport is, number one, you've got to take out the competitive factor when you're introducing a new rider, man or woman. So making it fun, making it non-intimidating, bringing her into the sport and supporting her at her level. Granted, as an experienced rider, every now and then you like to show your stuff. Anybody does, especially when you're feeling it. But there's a time and a place when you're with a new rider and you're trying to get her into riding. You don't want to intimidate her. The best atmosphere for a new rider is, the assumption was, go to your local snowmobile club and go to a barbecue and you ride to the barbecue and leave. That's not so. Some people, that's not right for them. They want to go out and actually ride, but they don't want to be in a riding terrain that's scary or above their head. With today's machines and areas that we can ride, you can go to an area that's just simple boondocking, meadows, rolling hills, and you can have a good time. And it's a family sport, or it's just a bunch of girls going out riding, or it's mixed with couples. You see everything now. So it's not, the term mountain riding doesn't mean you have to shoot up a crazy mountain. It means you're in the mountains enjoying the backcountry. One of the biggest factors I have with my students that come to Backcountry Basics is they go, oh, I'm getting in shape for class, I'm getting in shape, I need to be strong for this class to learn. There's some truth to that, but very little. It's not about brawn. The biggest strength that you can improve to be a fluid snowmobiler and enjoy it is cardiovascular. The rest of it is about technique, and that's 85% mental. So snowmobiling with today's machines and being as advanced as they are and easy to ride, it's more a mental state of conditioning. One of the biggest ways that people can, women and men, but improve their mental state and become a prepared backcountry rider is take formalized instruction. It's available now. Learn technique before you learn terrain or go out and terrain. If you learn the techniques, then you just step up the skill levels as your confidence grows. Confidence is the key to riding, and confidence is gained through knowledge, and that eliminates fear. When you don't have fear, you're fluid, you're relaxed, you're having a good time out there. Confidence comes from knowledge. Knowledge builds trust. So in that aspect, you learn to trust your machine, know exactly what it's going to do when you have the proper rider positioning, throttle input, ski stance, all those things. Once you know when, where, and how much to give and do for the application of terrain, you have all the trust in the world with your machine that it'll do it, especially with today's machines. Getting stuck is one of the most frustrating things for snowmobilers. As women, it's even more frustrating because the old techniques people would use to get unstuck are very physical and very tiring. I myself used to be good for 3 stucks in a day, and I was done for the day. I was frustrated, I couldn't ride, and I became more of a handicap to the group I was with, and it just compiled into more stucks. Getting stuck does not mean you're a bad rider. It means that one of the 3 applications of riding that needs to come together, either throttle control, rider positioning, or your ski stance, something wasn't quite right. What I teach in Backcountry Basics is how to understand and be fluid with these 3 aspects to keep them in balance. Once you understand particularly throttle control, then you will overcome how not to get stuck. You regain your confidence by learning what you did that made you become stuck and become in that situation. By understanding, a lot of my students understand, oh, I did this, oh, I did that, right afterwards. They start to understand. It doesn't mean that you're not going to do it incorrectly the first few times or ever. But you'll understand why you did it, and by understanding why you did it, it's not a confidence breaker, it's a confidence builder because you know for next time how to do it correctly. Throttle control starts with understanding where your clutch engagement point is. Once you master your clutch engagement point, you will master your track speed. Once you master your track speed and your drive line, what's going on underneath there, the power delivery to the track and underneath you, you'll understand how to keep the snowmobile afloat on the snow. It's funny when I instruct. When I instruct to men, we're just kind of point blank, this is how it works, this is what you do. With women, when I teach them, I have found that I have to break it down into every little piece and very technical and explain to them, this is what you do, this is what will happen. Amazingly enough, women are more technically, women come from more of a technical approach and a real need to understand the physics behind it because they don't use brawn. And with men, I have to teach them how to get out of the brawn state of mind and muscling the sled and work with the sled. Some women just are in the physical aptitude that starting a sled is not right for them through a pull start. At Arctic Cat, we also have electric start, which is very nice. The misconception is it adds weight. Well, I teach how to ride on pivot point. Once a sled's in balance, weight doesn't matter, especially for a small-framed woman. That electric start is going to help her throughout the day. It's going to save her energy for actually riding. It's going to give her that endurance. There's a couple things that I teach in seminars and when I'm at, doing dealer events. I show things you can do at home in the garage to prepare for sled season and understand your sled. One of them is how to tip it on one ski. You can tip it on one ski in the garage, you can tip it on one ski in the snow much easier. The other one is understanding the clutch engagement point. How to use the clutch engagement, how to use the brake. They're used in unison. Most riders up until recently only use the throttle to control the speed and brake to absolutely stop or slow the sled. When in fact, for anyone that does motocross, understands that both of these things is like slipping the clutch. Instead of slipping the clutch, we're using the brake. So we find the clutch engagement point, basically, which we bring the RPMs up till right when we feel the drive line. We feel the sled become tight under. It's almost like it's straightening its back underneath us. We find that clutch engagement point and just barely touch it. You'll feel the sled want to lurch forward or move forward, just ever so slightly. Then you touch it with the brake. You can do this in the garage, or you can do it hopefully pointing out of the garage, just in case you give a little too much throttle. And just nudge that throttle. Feel that spot, touch that brake. Throttle, brake, throttle, brake, and become familiar with it. Listen to the sound of where those RPMs are. You'll instinctively eventually find that spot. The thing with the clutch engagement point that is a make or a breaker for men and women is they tend to be 100 RPMs too low or 100 RPMs too high, sometimes as much as 50, finding that point. It's a refined skill. Once you become familiar with that, everything else is easy. One of the things I don't let my students do is look at where those RPMs are on their tachometer, because that teaches them to look down. We don't do that when we ride. We are always looking up, we're always looking ahead. One of the things you want to do is learn to listen and feel. Feel your sled underneath you. Learn to know that sled is an extension of your body when we're riding. Don't get distracted by looking to see what your sled's doing. Feel it. Everything from the motor to the RPMs to the track to the snow conditions to the braking throttle action. Feel it. Guys, you want to get your wives and your girlfriends into riding. The biggest thing, number one, sign her up for formal training. Backcountry Basics, I offer couples courses. I offer all women's courses, whichever you know is most best fit for her. Both of them I see them excel in. Formal training, number one. Don't try and train her yourself, because talking from experience, it'll be a much more pleasant experience if you send her to someone else. The other thing, get her the proper piece of equipment. Buy her a new sled, a new modern sled. If you go out and buy her a proper piece of equipment, it will last a long time. And before you know it, you'll have your favorite riding partner right in your own house. Make it fun for her. Don't put her in intimidating terrain and environments. Let her grow into her confidence within her skill level, within her confidence zone. Don't push her until she's ready to push herself.